Hello! Today I'm going to share a personal experience about how I experienced an enormous amount of stress and overwhelm planning activities for my children that went horribly wrong. Now, this is extending off my last video about why parents are so stressed all of the time. And I think it's funny how just after making that video, I experienced an enormous challenge myself. And it ended up giving me an opportunity to learn a bit more about this and apply it to my own life as a parent. So one of my children is having a birthday, a 19th birthday coming up, and he wanted to do something fun a week before because his brother is going away and he didn't want his brother to miss out. So we wanted to do something this weekend so everybody could be involved and participate. So recently I bought a new car, and to pick it up, it is 2.5 to 3 hours away from where I live in this beautiful country bush setting. And so it's in the city, a very busy city, and I do not like cities, as I shared in my previous video. The crowds and the noise and the energy, it does get quite overwhelming. Not to mention my youngest child is also just as sensitive as I am to the energies around us, and he gets very stressed and overwhelmed in large crowds, and I tend to pick up on his energy and get mixed up with his feelings and my feelings, and it just ends up being such a stressful day when we plan long trips away. I also want to mention that as unschoolers for over a decade, my children have not had set bedtimes since they were little because they don't have to get up and go anywhere, and the way that we homeschool is in an unschooling way, meaning that the learning happens spontaneously and naturally. We don't plan lessons. We don't get the children up and have breakfast and get them prepared for their lessons like traditional school does. So over the years, my children have listened to their own bodies when it comes to being tired and sleeping and being awake. Now, apart from my youngest child, who is 11, all of my other children who are older have learned to regulate their own sleeping patterns. And on days that we have to go out for long trips, they are able to, over that week, with plenty of notice, change their sleeping to either stay awake longer so they can go to bed earlier, or us to be woken up so that they are extra tired and go to bed early that night. So leading up to this trip where I was to pick up my new car, I found a place where we could all go in the vicinity of the area and make a whole day of it, enjoy some activities like mini golf and bowling and laser tag, all in the one area. And I had planned it all out. I knew where it was from the car yard. I knew how we were going to get there, where we were going to park, where we would have to walk to. And so the week leading up to it, I was very mindful of when my kids were sleeping, when they were waking up, and I noticed a build-up of stress start to occur because I wanted everything to be perfect. I wanted them to have a good night's sleep so that nobody was tired and cranky and upset and complaining, and God forbid anybody change their mind, because I paid for this and it cost me quite a lot of money. So I ended up, the few days leading up to the trip, I had put so much pressure on the children, and my anxiety started to increase. And I remember every day asking my husband while I was at work, wake the kids up so that they're tired that night, or make them stay awake. And I just noticed, and I ignored the signs of the stress building and the stress building of this huge day planned. We would have to get up early and drive the 2.5 to 3 hours. We'd have to stop on the way and get breakfast and do everything. And I didn't allow enough time. So we were rushing once we got there, and driving in a really large city is so stressful and so hectic. And we were delayed by about 40 minutes arriving to this place. And by the time we had got there, so basically, sorry to go back a bit, it didn't work out as planned with the sleep. So the more pressure, and I started getting a bit cranky the couple of days leading up to leaving. And I noticed that my children were not in the sleeping pattern that I wanted them to be in. So I was putting pressure on them. Make sure you get up, make sure you go to bed. And I noticed them start to say to me, I can't sleep. I tried, but I can't. And they were really trying for me. They were laying down and they were really listening and trying, and they couldn't sleep. And so the day before we left, one of them didn't sleep at all. And actually 2 of them. And in the back of my mind, I was thinking, I have put so much pressure and emphasis on this huge day. I have built it up to be so much that it has caused the opposite effect. Sorry. And that effect is resistance or anticipation, and me hyping it up so much that it caused them to stay awake longer. And now I should know this by now, as a parent who went through all the struggles when my children were little, trying to force them into bed, and you have to go to sleep because you have school in the morning, and they couldn't get to sleep. And I would get cranky because they couldn't get to sleep, and then they couldn't get to sleep because I would get cranky. And it's the same with, as an early childhood educator at my own daycare. I notice that when I start to, come on children, like you really need to close your eyes and go to sleep, that it makes them stay awake longer. So I tend not to do that. I tend to just sort of lay off and not talk about sleep, because the more we talk about something and hype it up, the more it's on our children's minds, and there's little relaxation. Children fall asleep when they are relaxed and they know that everything's okay no matter what. But I was making it out to be, no, it's not going to be okay if you don't sleep. I've paid for all this and I just want everybody to sleep and be happy. I had expectations. I had thoughts in my mind and expectations that I wanted it to go a certain way. It didn't matter what was going on with my children. I wasn't paying attention. I didn't want to risk letting them continue to follow their guidance and then deal with it in the moment. I was trying so hard to plan and plan and plan, expecting that it would go a certain way and everybody would be in a really good mood and happy and we'd have a great day. Well, the complete opposite happened. So when we got up to go, 2 children hadn't been able to fall asleep that night. They were extremely tired. One of them felt very sick and still said that they wanted to go. And the other said, I don't know if I want to go. And I became a bit stressed and upset. I've paid for this and I told you and blah, blah, blah. I just did my thing where I just kind of, and then that child said, fine, I'll just come. And then, of course, the guilt set in and I was like, no, it's okay. If you really want to stay home, it's fine. Don't worry about the money. But everybody had ended up deciding to come. And I had taken a moment. I'd gone into my bedroom. I'd sat down and I knew immediately that this was me. It was on me. I didn't have to think about it. I just knew. So I'm always aware of when I do these things. I'm always aware of when I'm in my patterns and my thoughts and my expectations. I have built so much awareness over the years that I don't need reminding because I can be aware of it. It's a matter of stopping myself and taking a breath and taking a step back and letting go. And sometimes I can't do this because I get so caught up in the moment and in my emotions that I just take it out on everyone. But yesterday I took myself to my room, I sat down and I said to myself, it's not their fault. Like, you planned all of this. It's okay. It's not my fault either. So I apologized for being stressful and I stopped making a deal of it, and we ended up leaving. Well, because of the traffic and the big city and everything, we ended up getting there quite late to the venue. And we had 4 activities booked. We did the first activity and then children started becoming so tired and so done. And we'd just gotten there. And so my youngest was just, he would not stop complaining. He was so upset. And I tried to keep calm, but I was feeling his anxiety. There were so many people. It was so loud. Nobody wanted to do the activities anymore. They just wanted to sit down. So I ended up letting go a bit more. Okay, well, so what? I've paid. We're here now. Whoever wants to do the activities can. My husband and I will adjust and we'll take turns sitting out with the children. We came up with a new plan. We had readjusted and we ended up continuing as best we could. We had one child so tired that they were nodding off and resting their head down on a table and falling asleep, and another child just, please take me home, I want to go home. And I didn't want to do that because there were other children in the family that wanted to participate and were excited. So again, I got to participate in a couple of activities. The last activity, everybody wanted me to join in, come and have fun, Mom, but one of my children started to become ill. And I just felt in myself, okay, look, I obviously didn't listen to myself in the beginning. There were signs telling me, like, this is really not a good idea. So what if you've paid? I couldn't get a refund. I couldn't change my booking. I could have just accepted that and said, okay, today's not the day. Forget about the money. Let go. Let's go pick up our car and come home. But no, I forced it because I had paid. I had these ideas in my mind that because I paid, we have to go. I didn't listen to my instincts, my intuition, which really just felt that it was not going to work out well. And of course, because I didn't listen and I pushed it anyway, there were all these signs that no, it's not going to be a great day. It ended up just going, like, becoming, I'm not going to say a disaster because there was some fun had, but it just was such a long day by the time we left. So I ended up sitting out of that last activity to the disappointment of my other children. But I wasn't about, excuse me, I wasn't about to ignore my intuition yet again. So I just said, no, something's telling me to go and sit out with the 2 older children, even though they're legally allowed to be out there. One of them's sick. One of them is falling asleep. I need to be there. And if I upset others, that's just how it has to be. So I went out and I sat with my children, and it was nighttime before we finished, and we had to make the journey back through the city on foot to the car park. Then we had to get dinner and petrol and everything. And we got back very late at night, and the children, like, they weren't eating as much. They were sleeping in the car. And so it just said to me that, you know, it just could have been organized for a better time. So I just wanted to share that because I was able to in the end, I was able to tell all of my children, this is not your fault. And it's just like, these things happen. Children's bodies change moment to moment. They might be excited for something. And yes, my children are capable of looking at a situation and accepting that, hey, look, Mum's paid money, I'm going to make an effort and try. And that is what they did. But the fact that they were tired and they weren't enjoying themselves, they couldn't help that. I can't be mad at my children for how they feel. They're not doing that on purpose. So I was able to end up managing the day, managing the evening without taking my stress out on everybody. I was able to just sit with my stress and accept that, you know, I'm not happy either. I didn't really want to come either, and I didn't listen. I don't like the city either. I don't like big crowds either. I like sitting at home in my house in the bush making videos or doing my food prep for the week. I don't like going and doing big activities, and neither do my children. And this is why we very rarely make plans like this. It might be once a year. So I did end up saying to my children that from now on, when there's birthdays, like we're going to have to plan things that are a little closer, or we're going to have to make sure that everybody's, had a good sleep. We won't book things that are paid for in advance so we can change our mind, things like that. So I was able to shift my perspective and take responsibility and say, there are ways to fix this and change this and learn from it for next time. I didn't have to make my children bad or wrong for it. None of them got into trouble. Yes, I was highly stressed, but I managed to turn it around and sit with the feelings myself and acknowledge that this is something about me. This is my boundary. I didn't listen to my boundaries, and I pushed my kids to do a planned activity that they didn't really want to do. There was probably only one or two of them that were excited and the rest weren't. And I went ahead and encouraged it and pushed for it anyway. And it turned out not so good for all of us. So thank you for watching. And I'm happy to share these personal experiences to give a taste of what my life as a parent can be like. It is definitely not perfect. I definitely make mistakes. I definitely still feel stress and overwhelm, but I have the tools to manage it and turn it around so that I don't blame my children and make it about them. I come back into myself and find an opportunity for growth, learning, and healing. Have a great day, everybody. Love to all. Bye.